President Obama in Atlanta in a final push to rally swing state voters. And this comes as former President Trump took the stage in Duluth, Georgia, to tell Americans what he will do if he wins a second term.
I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote in this election, I will end inflation, I will stop the invasion of criminals into our country, and I will bring back the American dream. I'm going to bring it back very quickly.
Doug Collins is a former Georgia congressman and the host of the Doug Collins podcast, and he joins me now. Doug, good morning to you. So both of these candidates have spent an enormous time in Georgia. Where do you see the election right now?
The election in Georgia is very interesting. We've had a lot of early turnout. Vote is, it's basically at historic levels. But what we're seeing when you break that vote down is that this is very good for Donald Trump. I mean, these numbers, the Democrats have to be seeing this, and they have to be worried. Typically, we lose the early vote. The first week and a half, Democrats, we lose it by sometimes 10 to 15 points. It's higher. We're seeing it now at historic levels. We're actually winning, and there's an undecided or a low propensity voter number. It's about 11 or 12%. In other words, they haven't been voting regularly. Nobody's running out with excitement to vote for Harris. This is the Donald Trump voter. So right now, I see it good, but I will just say it again. These elections are not over. It's got time to go vote.
Yeah, well, on the early vote, here's Georgia's Secretary of State, the top election official, talking about what you were just mentioning. Listen to this.
Every day has almost been a record breaker. If you look at the kind of turnout we're having day after day, we'll probably be at almost 4 million of early voting by the time we finish next Friday. It is a testament that voters trust our systems here in Georgia.
Do you think that's true?
I think so. I think they're getting back, and I think they're wanting to vote. But also, what it really shows, though, is that the Democrats who've been calling the Georgia election laws Jim Crow 2.0 and calling it voter suppression for years, Stacey Abrams, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, all it's not. Because every time we put in security in our elections, actually the ones that they said would be affected actually are the ones who turn out the most. So for all those Democrats spreading the lies, stop it.
Yeah,
just
you know
stop
what?
it.
You just brought up such a great point. Democrats have been saying for years it's difficult to vote in Georgia. They're making it hard. Well, look at how many people have already voted. It's record turnout.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so here's a real clear politics headline. It's close, but the signs aren't good for Kamala Harris. And that may explain some of the recent headlines about former President Trump, about things he said in the past, about a murdered Army private that the family even disputes. But these headlines are out there. Do you think that will impact the election?
For 8 years, they've said everything bad about Donald Trump. And all the time, it just continues to roll off. And this late in the election, you're pulling out something from John Kelly, who was the chief of staff 6 years ago, and it has been refuted by people in the room that have said, I was in the room, this didn't happen. No, it's not going to affect, because it's a vast difference, and you just saw it in the last segment. Donald Trump down in Atlanta yesterday was saying, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to close the border, I want to fix the economy, I want to do this. And Vice President Harris is out we had to take 2 days off, by the way, to prepare for 2 interviews. I like doing interviews. I've done these. I don't take 2 days off to prepare for interviews, and she shouldn't have to either. She's running for president, and they're desperate. If you're in Atlanta with Barack Obama chasing the base votes, you're losing.
Yeah, well, at that town hall, she was asked by one voter, what is the #1 thing you want to accomplish as president? And she could not answer that question. So there were some parts of this town hall that were extremely uncomfortable. Okay, we want to also get to this. This is important. Russian President Vladimir Putin, he convened about 24 countries to discuss a, quote, new world order free from Western dominance. And this is Putin's biggest platform since invading Ukraine. China was there. Iran was there as well. India, which is very disappointing, also was in attendance. And then separately, Jackie Heinrich, she recently pressed John Kirby on providing Ukraine more artillery. Listen to what that sounded like.
Why not greenlight the long-range missiles for Ukraine's use, which is Zelensky's #1 ask, as you're sounding the alarm about what could have far-reaching implications if North Korean soldiers go into Ukraine?
Well, for one thing, Jackie, we don't exactly know what these guys are going to do.
What else could they be there for?
We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know if they're going to deploy into combat or not. We don't know if they do and what strength. We certainly don't have a sense of what capability they might be able to bring to the field with them.
Doesn't this seem, though, like a couple years ago, they were staged, you had Russian troops staged on the Ukrainian border, and this administration was saying, we don't know if they're going to go in, we don't want to impose any sanctions, we didn't do it ahead of time.
No.
Why is there not a consequence first?
Well, first of all, let's not rewrite history, Jackie. We were the first country to go out publicly and say, here's what we think the Russians are going to do, here's the timeline.
Anything about it.
That is not true.
What do you think?
I think she ought to get a raise. I mean, because that's the first holding accountable there. And this is what this administration doesn't want to have. They want it both ways on Ukraine. They want to be tough on Ukraine, but yet they want to be, they not give the materials. They want to have it a softer approach. Well, we don't know exactly what these North Korean troops are going to do. We don't exactly know what Putin's going to do. Yes, we do. They're following it all along. And she was exactly right in the question when she said, y'all were the ones that were sort of up to date, not knowing if they were going to go across. Are they going to cross? In fact, Vice President Harris talks all the time about her being in Munich the day that they invaded. It was like, well, it caught us off guard because I'm not sure you would have the vice president that close to the front line. So again, they want it both ways. And what's happening is Putin sees the weakness. And look at what they put in line. Iran, China, Korea, these folks coming together, they say, we don't like America.
Countries, yeah.
Yeah, so they say, we see a weakness and we're going to exploit that weakness while we can, because they know come 2 weeks from now, Donald Trump gets elected,
no matter
that's
who's
over.
the next president, they're going to have a lot of hot spots to deal with. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you in studio.